You're at a party, trying to relax, but then you overhear it. That one word, Bitcoin. Suddenly the conversation pivots and you're on the outside looking in. Words like blockchain, decentralization, and digital gold fly around the room, and everyone just seems to be nodding along. You offer a polite smile, but inside, your brain is quietly buffering. It feels like you missed a global memo, and now you're the only one left who just doesn't get it. But what if the secret to understanding Bitcoin isn't about being a tech genius? What if the entire system can actually be explained with one simple idea you already know? If you've ever felt left out of the crypto conversation, this video is for you. This isn't a lecture, it's the plain English guide that will finally make it all click. My only promise is this: by the end, you won't just be nodding along, you'll have the confidence to actually join in. Feeling left out is one thing, but let's be honest, this is about more than just party chatter. Have you ever stopped to ask why this topic keeps showing up everywhere? Why are so many people suddenly so interested in a new kind of money? It's because Bitcoin isn't just an internet trend. For many, it's a direct response to a massive, invisible problem with the money we use every single day. Let me ask you this: do you ever get that feeling that the money in your savings account buys a little less each year? That the same grocery run that cost you $100 a few years ago is now pushing $130? That's not a feeling, it's a reality called inflation. And this is the part most people misunderstand. It happens because our financial system is run by central authorities, governments and central banks, that hold the power to create more money out of thin air. When they print more, the value of the money you've already worked hard to save slowly leaks away. It's like a quiet, invisible tax on your wealth. Think about the sheer control they have. A bank can freeze your account. A payment app can block your transaction if it flags it as unusual. A government can devalue its currency overnight. We are forced to trust that these powerful institutions will manage our money properly. But this raises an obvious question. What happens when that trust is broken? That isn't just a hypothetical. It's the very reason Bitcoin was created. To truly get Bitcoin, we have to go back to 2008. The world was in the grip of a devastating financial crisis. Huge historic banks like Lehman Brothers were collapsing, seemingly overnight. They had made incredibly risky bets with other people's money, and when those bets went bad, the entire global system came crashing down. Millions of ordinary people lost their homes, their jobs, and their life savings. Trillions of dollars of wealth just vanished. And what was the official response? Governments printed trillions of new dollars to bail out the very institutions that caused the crisis, the ones deemed too big to fail. This event exposed a fundamental weakness in the system. A small group of people can make catastrophic mistakes or change the rules at any time, and it's the average person who ultimately pays the price. It was in the midst of this chaos, on Halloween of 2008, that an anonymous person or group known only as Satoshi Nakamoto published a 9-page paper online. Its title was Bitcoin, a peer-to-peer electronic cash system. It wasn't flashy, there was no company behind it, no marketing budget. It was just a quiet, technical blueprint for something revolutionary, a new kind of money that didn't rely on trust, a system built for the internet, owned by no one, that could be sent directly from one person to another without a bank or a government getting in the middle. In fact, on January 3rd, 2009, Satoshi embedded a message into the very first block of Bitcoin ever created. It was a headline from that day's edition of the Times of London: "Chancellor on brink of second bailout for banks." This wasn't just a random piece of text. It was a timestamp and a mission statement. Bitcoin wasn't created to make people rich overnight. It was built as an alternative to a financial system that had just proven it couldn't be trusted. So what is this alternative really? For a true Bitcoin Explained for Beginners guide, the simplest way to think about it is as digital money or digital cash. It's a lot like the money you see in your banking app, but with a few crucial differences that change absolutely everything. First, there are no physical Bitcoins. You can't hold one in your hand any more than you can hold an email. It exists entirely in the digital world. Second, and this is the absolute game changer, Bitcoin is decentralized. Our current money is centralized. The US dollar is controlled by the US government and its central bank, the Federal Reserve. They are the central authority. Bitcoin has no central authority. There is no Bitcoin CEO, no headquarters, and no customer service line to call. It isn't a company. It's an open network that anyone can join, just like the internet itself. Now, that raises a huge question. If no one is in charge, how does anything work? How do we keep track of who owns what without a bank? Imagine a special kind of public notebook that lists every single Bitcoin transaction ever made. But instead of this notebook being hidden away on a private bank server, it's copied and shared across thousands of computers all over the world. When Alice wants to send 1 Bitcoin to Bob, she essentially announces it to this global network. The computers on the network all check their copies of the notebook to confirm that Alice actually has the Bitcoin to send. If she does, they all update their notebooks at the same time, adding the new transaction. Alice sent 1 Bitcoin to Bob. Because everyone holds the same shared record, it becomes nearly impossible to cheat. If you tried to alter a transaction in your copy, say to erase a payment you made, it wouldn't match the thousands of other copies. The network would instantly reject your version as fake. This shared, public, and constantly verified notebook is the great innovation that makes Bitcoin possible. It's called the blockchain. That word blockchain sounds way more intimidating than it actually is. So let's stick with our public notebook analogy. A block is simply 1 page in our public notebook. Each block is just a collection of recent confirmed transactions. Once a block is full of transactions, which happens roughly every 10 minutes, it gets added to the end of the notebook. But to make sure it's secure forever, the block first has to be sealed by solving a very difficult math puzzle. Think of it like putting a new page of transactions into a special tamper-proof digital envelope. That envelope gets a unique, unbreakable seal called a hash. A hash is a special code generated from the exact contents of the block. If even a single comma or number inside that block is changed later, the digital seal breaks and the entire network knows something is wrong. Now here's where things get interesting. This is the chain part. Each new block doesn't just get its own unique seal, it also contains the unique seal from the block that came directly before it. This is what links them all together into an unbreakable chain. Block 100 is linked to block 99. Block 99 is linked to block 98, and so on, all the way back to that very first Genesis block Satoshi created in 2009. This chain structure is what makes the history of transactions so incredibly secure and permanent. If you tried to go back and secretly alter a transaction in an old block, like block 50, you would break its digital seal. And since block 51 contains the seal of block 50, that link would now be broken. You would have to resolve the puzzle for block 50 to create a new seal, which would change the seal inside block 51, forcing you to reseal that block and then block 52, and so on. You'd have to single-handedly redo the work for hundreds of thousands of blocks, all while competing against a global network of powerful computers that are already working on the next block. It is practically impossible. That's the magic trick. The blockchain creates a public history that anyone can see, but no single person can ever change. It creates trust without needing a trustworthy company, because the trust is built directly into the math and the code itself. So you might be asking, who are these people with powerful computers solving those math puzzles? And why on earth would they volunteer to do it? These participants are called miners, and the process is called mining. They aren't digging for anything physical. Mining is simply the act of competing to be the first one to solve that complex math puzzle to seal the next block of transactions. Thousands of miners around the world use specialized computers to guess the answer trillions of times per second. The first one to find the solution gets to add the new block to the blockchain. And as a reward for doing all of this security work, for spending real money on computers and electricity, the winning miner gets 2 things: all the small transaction fees that people included in that block, and more importantly, a reward of brand new Bitcoin. This is how new Bitcoins are created. It's the only way. This reward system does something genius. It controls the supply of Bitcoin with mathematical precision. Satoshi built 2 unbreakable rules into the system. First, the reward for mining a block gets cut in half roughly every 4 years. This event is called the halving. When Bitcoin started, the reward was 50 BTC per block. In 2012, it dropped to 25. In 2016, to 12.5. in 2020 to 6.25, and so on. This process guarantees that the creation of new Bitcoin automatically slows down over time. Second, and this is Bitcoin's most famous feature, there is a hard limit on the total number that can ever exist. There will only ever be 21 million Bitcoin, not one more. That limit is written into the core code and enforced by the entire global network. The very last fraction of a Bitcoin is expected to be mined around the year 2140. And this is why large institutions have started paying attention. For the first time in history, the world has a form of money whose supply is completely predictable. Now compare that to regular money, which can be created with no limit. This built-in predictable scarcity is exactly why so many people call Bitcoin digital gold. Gold is valuable because it's rare and hard to mine from the earth. Bitcoin has that same quality, but in a digital form that's easier to store, divide, and send anywhere in the world. Its scarcity is guaranteed by math, not by geology or a central bank's promises. Okay, let's just hit pause for a second. We've gone from the 2008 financial crisis all the way to a global notebook sealed by math puzzles. You've probably seen heated debates online about Bitcoin's price, with people screaming that it's going to the moon or crashing to zero. But here's the thing, almost none of those arguments are about the fundamentals we've just covered. Understanding how the system actually works is far more important than guessing its day-to-day price. Now that you have that foundation, you can see past the hype. So let's get back to what makes this digital money actually usable. So how do you plug into this network and actually use some of this digital money for yourself? And what other features make it so different? Now here's the part most beginners never hear about. Owning Bitcoin isn't actually about holding coins at all. To use it, you need a Bitcoin wallet, which is usually just an app on your phone or computer. Your wallet manages two crucial pieces of information, your public key and your private key. Think of your public key like your email address or a bank account number. You can share it with anyone in the world who wants to send you Bitcoin. It's totally safe to give out. Your private key, however, is like the master password to your bank vault. It's the secret code that proves you own your Bitcoin and gives you the power to spend them. You must guard this key with your life. If someone else gets it, they can take your funds. If you lose it, your Bitcoin are gone forever. There is no forgot password link and no customer service line to call. This is what being your own bank truly means. You have total control, but also total responsibility. Most modern wallets give you a seed phrase, a list of 12 or 24 words that acts as the ultimate backup for your private keys. Beyond just holding it, Bitcoin has other unique properties. Portability. How would you send a large amount of value across the world today? It likely involves a slow, expensive bank wire with lots of paperwork and middlemen. With Bitcoin, you can send any amount of value to anyone, anywhere on Earth with just an internet connection. It's as easy as sending an email without waiting days or paying huge fees. Divisibility. You've probably seen that one Bitcoin is worth tens of thousands of dollars and thought, well, I could never afford one. But here's a key detail. You don't have to buy a whole one. Just like a dollar can be divided into 100 cents, one Bitcoin can be divided into 100 million smaller units. The smallest unit is called a Satoshi, named after its creator. This means you can buy or use a tiny fraction of a Bitcoin, making it accessible to anyone. Now let's quickly tackle some of those headlines you've probably seen. Myth 1. Bitcoin is only for criminals. While its privacy features were used for illicit activity in the early days, today that's a tiny fraction of what happens on the network. Every single transaction is public on the blockchain. In fact, forensic tools are now incredibly good at tracing funds on this public ledger and have been used to catch many criminals. Good old-fashioned cash is still the king of crime because it's truly anonymous and leaves no trail. Myth 2. Bitcoin isn't backed by anything. This is a classic criticism. But let's flip the question. What is the US dollar backed by? Since 1971, it hasn't been backed by gold. It's a fiat currency, which means its value comes from the faith and credit of the government that issues it. Bitcoin is backed by something different, an unbreakable global network of computers, verifiable mathematics, and the absolute certainty of its digital scarcity. Myth 3. Bitcoin is a waste of energy. This is a valid and important conversation. Securing the network through mining does consume a lot of electricity, But it's important to have context. The traditional global financial system, with its skyscrapers, data centers, ATMs, and armored trucks, also consumes a massive amount of energy. The energy Bitcoin uses secures a global, open financial network for anyone to use. Furthermore, the mining industry is increasingly shifting toward renewable energy and capturing stranded energy sources that would otherwise go to waste. Finally, the single biggest risk you must understand is volatility. The price of Bitcoin can swing wildly. A drop of 20% in a single day is not unusual. This market is still young, and figuring out what a new global store of value is actually worth. You should never, ever invest more than you are prepared to lose. Okay, we've covered a lot. If you've made it this far and the fog is finally starting to clear, do me a quick favor and hit that like button. It's a simple, zero-cost way to let me know these explanations are helping, and it tells YouTube to share this video with other people who feel just as lost as you did a few minutes ago. So, let's bring it all back to that party. The next time someone mentions Bitcoin, you'll know what they're really talking about. You'll know it's not just some get-rich-quick scheme, but a technology born from the ashes of the 2008 financial crisis, created as an answer to a system built on fragile trust. You'll understand that the blockchain is just a shared public notebook that allows a network to agree on the truth without needing a middleman. And you'll know its value comes from its digital scarcity, that unchangeable cap of 21 million coins that makes it digital gold. You now have the foundation. You are no longer on the outside of the conversation looking in. Whether you decide to buy some Bitcoin, read more about it, or ignore it completely, you can now make that choice from a place of understanding, not confusion. You finally get it. If this explanation helped empower you, consider subscribing. My entire goal on this channel is to make the complex worlds of technology and finance simple and clear for everyone. Thanks for watching, and welcome to the conversation.